First things first. If you're familiar with this introduction, feel free to skip ahead until the trigger warning for our racist, hate-filled image of the day appears on screen. Otherwise, let me tell you. In each of these videos, I give away a t-shirt from my website, UnionOfTruth.org. That t-shirt goes to whichever comment in the comment section scores the highest on my double-secret proprietary rating scale, and they'll get to pick whichever design they want from the website. Mind you, I give away a t-shirt if the video gets at least 5,000 views and 50 unique comments by the time I start making my next video. I intend to make these videos 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Official rules are posted just below the like and subscribe buttons. Now, unless you're already fully aware of the following 9 facts, or you have a completely open mind and seek to expand your worldview, these videos might not be for you. Fact number 1. All of our society's root-level structural institutions are controlled by psychopathic parasites who intend to utterly subjugate us. And that's putting it mildly. Fact number 2. No one is coming to save us from them. If we don't take matters into our own hands, we will be utterly subjugated. Fact number 3. We are quickly running out of time to prevent such an outcome. Fact number 4. In order to prevent our subjugation, we need a viable plan of action. Fact number 5. There is no quick fix. A viable plan will need to be very detailed and will require that people must go outside of their comfort zone in order to comprehend it. Fact number 6. As an aspect of its viability, the plan must not require that everyone fully comprehends it in order to follow it. Fact number 7. Since the plan must not require that everyone fully comprehends it in order to follow it, leaders will be needed to properly inform and correctly guide fellow citizens who won't put forth the effort to fully comprehend the plan. Fact number 8. Leaders will need to fully comprehend the plan. Fact number 9. Exemplary leaders are committed to empowering those whom they lead. Exemplary leaders lead by example. And for those of you who are still with me, here's a 10th fact. This book contains a viable plan. The purpose of these videos is to disseminate the information provided in this book and to start an ongoing dialogue about all things related to the plan. You can download a free copy of this book in PDF format from UnionOfTruth.org without signing up for anything or filling anything out. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping you'll take me up on my simple 10-page challenge. It works like this. Read the first 10 pages of the book and fully investigate all of the links that are offered in order to discover the following. 1. Am I functioning from a valid conceptual foundation? 2. Have I done enough legitimate research to qualify as someone whose opinion is worthy of consideration? 3. Does the book actually provide a viable and fully detailed plan to thwart the science of fiction? Quite simple, and certainly not too much to ask of any red-blooded American patriot. One last thing. Those of you who are wondering, who is this guy? Should be sure to check out my video entitled, Who is this guy? Please, let us know exactly what you found most hateful and oppressive about that degenerate image. Your feedback is vital to our ongoing mission of greater understanding. All right. In this episode, we're going to go through the first part of the section called Law Enforcement. pages 41 through 44. But before I continue, I just want to remind you that, as mentioned on pages 34 and 35, the author's purposely condescending tone is not directed at you. It's directed at those who will mock you when you try sharing this information with them. Page 41, Section 8, Law Enforcement. The founders of your nation established a constitutional republic. As such, properly functioning law enforcement agencies cannot be tools used to protect and serve a criminal governing body that is constantly working on all possible fronts to deprive you of your constitutionally protected rights while they bankrupt you. They cannot be tools used by international business interests to shut down whole sections of your cities and deprive you of your right to free speech. But that's exactly what happens whenever groups who are working to eliminate your national sovereignty show up to hold a meeting. I dare you to read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution Bill of Rights and then, using sound logic, answer this question. How, in the midst of a peaceful demonstration, can there be anything lawful about a bunch of police dressed in black riot gear with their badge numbers covered up, forcibly dispersing the crowd? I dare anyone to sensibly explain what aspects of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution Bill of Rights such actions are upholding and protecting. Who exactly is it that is being protected and served in such a situation? What exactly is it that is being protected and served in such a situation? Don't just nod your head in agreement or shake it in disbelief or disgust. Answer those questions rationally, based upon a first-hand study of 1. The Declaration of Independence, 2. The Constitution Bill of Rights, 3. The concepts that inspired and informed those documents, 4. The many documented instances of the above-mentioned law enforcement being carried out under the guise of having the legitimate authority to do so. Go ahead, prove to yourself beyond any shadow of a doubt whether or not those documents grant anyone the legitimate authority to act as such or to direct such actions. How, the victims all ask without a clue, can the law-abiding citizens of a country whose leaders advertise it as Earth's official defender of freedom now be living in fear of the machine that was originally created to ensure their own ongoing freedom? Well, the basic answer is quite simple. Just government cannot ever become a self-regulating growth industry. For the purposes of its citizens' freedom, which are the only purposes that bestow upon it any validity, just governance cannot ever become a self-regulating growth industry. Just governance is merely an ongoing process of enacting and enforcing the minimum amount of restrictions which are required to equally safeguard the unalienable rights of all citizens from whatever actual, credible threats or trespasses may emerge. The proper determination of such things requires an ongoing, accurately informed discourse among the entire population. Emotion-based perspectives cannot accurately inform you of such things. Such credible threats or trespasses can only be gauged through logical, objective investigation. Now, allow me to explain why the claimed need for protection from potential threats is a farce. You see, the meaning of the term potential threat is literally no different than that of the terms the potential for the indication of potential harm, possible expression of intent to do harm, and the possibility of the indication of possible harm. Feel free to look up the meanings of the words potential and threat. But really, besides a robust civil asset forfeiture program and the militarization of local police, what else is a self-regulating growth industry to do when it's out of actual domestic threats to scare people into willing submission with? And how else can that self-regulating growth industry justify the annual issuance of billions of dollars of hand-in-glove contracts for weapons and surveillance equipment and pseudo-governmental, super-constitutional security personnel that are helping to cause every possible manner of bankruptcy. Psst, Dwight D. Eisenhower was a conspiracy kook. The quote, expression of intent to do harm, known by a certain popular dictionary as a threat, is but an indication of the possibility of harm actually being done. So, upon what rational notion can a claimed need for the restriction of citizens' rights, which is based merely on the possibility of the indication of possible harm, be founded? That's the act of seeking protection from the potential for the indication of potential harm. Behold, we've spotted the full-grown offspring of a trigger warning protected safe space. If ever there has been a more ridiculous or empty display, farce, I'm not aware of it. Newsflash, the justification for restrictive actions based upon such a conceptualization cannot possibly exist within a system of governance that is actually upholding the concepts presented in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution Bill of Rights. You do know that such a conceptualization is the completely accurate picture of a dictatorship asserting its claimed right to convict anyone for crimes that have not been committed, don't you? You do know that such a conceptualization is none other than the completely accurate picture of a police state, don't you? It is the legal right to claim that a crime exists merely because the de facto rulers of those subjects imagine that there might be an expression of potential for it to come to fruition. Do you understand that the exact situation I have explained above is the exact situation you are already actually in, thanks to years-old legislation you might have heard of, some of which goes by the name of the Patriot Act? Watch this video from the 14-minute, 28-second mark. And if the Patriot Act, whose name sums up the Orwellian state that you fierce freedom fighters have battled valiantly to establish, doesn't show you that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution Bill of Rights do not apply to you, then certainly the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, which was signed into law by a supposed constitutional scholar who is the poster child for the fifth column, and which authorizes the United States government to legally abduct and indefinitely detain or assassinate United States citizens on U.S. soil simply because, for some unidentified reason, they are considered, by some unidentified functionary, to be a potential threat to the United States government, won't do it either. Yet such facts cannot be rationally denied. As with any situation, it is the responsibility of a creation's creators and heirs to ensure that the creation exists/functions in a manner that always serves their actual best interests. Unlike you frivolous footlings who have squandered your estimable inheritance, those of us who are the creators of, and heirs to, the above-mentioned duplicitous acts of genius know the meaning of personal responsibility. But since I have a bet to win, 1. Law enforcement agencies are a creation of government. Government is a creation of the people. The Supreme Court is a part of, not apart from, the creation. 2. The sole purpose of those creations in the United States of America was that they serve the public according to the concepts of just governance. Those concepts were expressed in the Declaration of Independence and in the individual state documents that ratified the Constitution for the United States. They were collectively formulated into a framework of organic law. That framework was designed to be capable of enabling the creation of statutory law as needed based upon those concepts, while simultaneously preventing the enactment of any statutory law which is in opposition to such concepts. Google the term organic law. 3. The powers delegated to such creations can never rightfully supersede those of their creators who are merely entrusting them with such power in order to serve what said creators and their heirs believe is their best interest, which was the purpose of the creation taking place to begin with. The Declaration of Independence declares this. Simple logic proves it, as does jury nullification. You do know what jury nullification is, don't you? As does Article 5 of the Constitution. Through it, the founders specifically left the ultimate power to control the federal government in the hands of the people, by way of their state legislatures. The states can lawfully subdue an oppressive federal government by convening an Article 5 convention for proposing amendments to the Constitution that will, upon ratification, definitively modify those aspects of the federal government that have become cancerous. And, for now, there is nothing the feds can do about it, other than covertly orchestrating runaway ratifying conventions in at least 3/4 of the states, or having their moles positioned as a majority of the legislatures in at least 3/4 of the states, in which case a properly educated and unified populace would immediately throw the bums out and start the process over. Runaway ratifying conventions and traitorous state legislatures cannot invalidate the Declaration of Independence. Are the feds overreaching by way of the General Welfare Clause? Amend it so that its language will no longer allow it to be misapplied. Are they doing the same by way of the Commerce Clause and the Necessary and Proper Clause? Amend them so that their language will not allow misapplication. There is literally no aspect of oppressive federal governance that cannot be lawfully rectified through this inarguably valid process. Those people calling for state secession are not thinking clearly. What about the people who deny that states have the inherent right of nullification? Are they thinking clearly? In this case, nullification being that a particular state or numerous states refuse to enforce federal dictates that are not in pursuance of the concepts expressed in the Constitution. Similar to jury nullification, but here it's the states versus the federal government. To see just how serious of a matter this was to the framers of the Constitution, read what more than one state ratifying resolution specifically stated in regard to the conditional limitations of the powers they were delegating to their creation, the federal government. For instance, why not read the ratifying documents of New York, Rhode Island, and Virginia? And while you're at it, I highly recommend that you read these enlightening articles as well. Well, that's it for today. Let's meet back here tomorrow and we'll go over the second half of this section. Till then, take good care of yourself and remember, objectivity, logic, fidelity, because absurdity knows no bounds.